You are the master of your fate. Let's begin. Let me tell you a truth that might sting a little, but it's a truth that sets you free. The greatest wall you face isn't built by your circumstances. It's built by your own mind. You've been taught to look outside yourself for the problem. You blame the economy. You blame your family. You blame your lack of connections, or your education, or the bad luck that seems to follow you. And sure, those things exist. They can be real challenges. But I've sat with men who started with nothing, less than nothing, sometimes, and built empires from dust. And I've seen men born into privilege with every advantage, squander it all and end up back where they started. The difference wasn't their starting line, it was their internal architecture. They understood that the most dangerous chains aren't the ones you can see. They're the ones you've learned to live with, the ones you've convinced yourself are part of who you are. I'm talking about the fear of failure that keeps you from ever starting, the old wound that makes you shrink from new opportunities, the comfortable lie that tells you this is as good as it gets, the secret pride in your struggle that prevents you from asking for help, the outdated belief about money or success or even yourself that you picked up long ago and never questioned. These aren't external roadblocks, they're internal agreements, agreements you've made with fear, agreements you've made with mediocrity, agreements you've made with the person you were, instead of the person you're meant to be. And the hardest part, most people don't even realize they're carrying this invisible weight. They just feel exhausted. They feel stuck. They feel like they're running in quicksand, always moving, never truly advancing. But here's the stark truth. Until you identify what you're clinging to, you'll never truly be free to build. You can hustle all you want. You can learn all the strategies. You can chase every opportunity. But if you're doing it while dragging the dead weight of old fears and limiting beliefs, you're working twice as hard to go half as far. I'm going to show you what that weight is, how it hides in plain sight, and more importantly, how to finally drop it. Because the biggest obstacle isn't what you lack, it's what you refuse to give up. Now you might be thinking, Hill, I'm not clinging to anything. I want success. I want freedom. And I believe you. Consciously you do. But the human mind is a subtle thing. It builds walls around you that feel like shelters. It creates routines that feel like stability. It whispers old stories that feel like identity. These are what I call the comfort traps. They don't look like obstacles. They look like the familiar failure, that well-worn path of trying and stopping just short of success. You know how to fail here. It's predictable. You might even complain about it, but deep down, there's a strange comfort in its familiarity. The one-day dream, that vision you keep in your head always in the future. One day I'll start the business. One day I'll write the book. One day I'll take the risk. One day feels safe because it never demands action today. It's a deferral of discomfort disguised as hope. The validation addiction, the constant need for approval from others, your family, your friends, society. You tailor your ambitions, your moves, even your silence to what you believe will earn you a nod. But every time you chase external validation, you hand over your inner compass to someone else. The comfort of complaining. It sounds absurd, but listen closely. Complaining feels good for a moment, doesn't it? It releases steam. It unites you with others who feel the same way. But it's a trap. It keeps you focused on the problem, not the solution. It anchors you to the negative, preventing any real forward motion. The outdated identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are. I'm not a risk taker. I'm just not good with money. I'm too old now. This identity might have served you in the past, or it was given to you by someone else, but it's a mold you're still trying to fit into, even as you outgrow it. These aren't accidental habits. They are choices. Unconscious choices, perhaps, but choices nonetheless. They are the paths of least resistance that lead to the least growth. I saw this constantly in my early days. Men who could have been giants, but they clung to a secure paycheck, even when their spirit was dying. They stayed in towns they hated because moving was too uncertain. They held on to resentments because forgiving felt like weakness. They traded the pain of growth for the dull ache of stagnation. And the world applauds it. Be realistic, they'll say. Don't rock the boat. Play it safe. They'll tell you that the cage you're clinging to is actually a strong foundation. But I'm here to tell you, that's the lie. The real danger isn't losing what you have. It's losing who you could become because you were afraid to let go of what you had. Your comfort zones are not your friends if they're keeping you from your destiny. They are silent saboteurs, disguised as security. And until you see them for what they are, not protection, but chains, you'll keep orbiting the life you truly desire, never quite landing. We've talked about the comfort traps. Now let's talk about the price, because everything has a cost. And the cost of clinging to what no longer serves you, it's far higher than you think. It's not just about the millions you didn't make, or the dream business you didn't start. Those are obvious. The real costs are silent. They're invisible. They chip away at you day by day until you barely recognize the person staring back in the mirror. Let me lay it bare. The cost of unlived dreams. Every one day that becomes no day drains a piece of your spirit. That idea you keep postponing. That talent you refuse to develop. It's not just lying dormant, it's screaming for expression. And when it's stifled, it turns into quiet resentment, a dull ache of what could have been. You walk around with a hidden burden, the ghost of your unfulfilled potential. The cost of what if. This is the insidious poison of regret. Not the regret of trying and failing, which is a teacher, but the regret of never trying at all. The what if I had just, that haunts your quiet moments. This hypothetical future, never grasped, robs your present joy and makes every future decision harder. The cost of diminished energy. Clinging to old fears, old resentments, old habits. It's exhausting. It's like trying to run a race with a heavy backpack full of rocks. Your mental bandwidth is consumed by justifying inaction, defending your comfort zone, and managing the anxiety of not stepping up. That energy, which could be building your empire, is instead spent maintaining your prison. The cost of lost connection. When you refuse to evolve, you subtly push away the very people who could elevate you. New opportunities, new partnerships, new mentors, they gather around those who are in motion, those who are shedding the past and embracing growth. If you're stuck, you become a magnet for others who are stuck. Your circle shrinks to fit your comfort, not your ambition. The cost of erosion of self-trust. Every time you tell yourself you'll change, you'll act, you'll let go, and then you don't, a little piece of your self-trust dies. You start to doubt your own promises, your own intentions. This erosion makes it harder to commit, harder to start, harder to believe in your own power. You become a person who talks but doesn't act. And the market, life itself, has no respect for talk. These aren't theoretical damages. They are real, tangible losses that compound over time. Like a slow leak in a tire, you might not notice it immediately, but eventually you're flat, you're immobile, and the journey you meant to take, it's impossible. I saw men who were brilliant, absolutely brilliant, waste their entire lives because they couldn't let go of a perceived slight from years ago, or a comfortable routine that paid just enough, or the fear of what their small-minded neighbors might say if they dared to dream bigger. They chose the fleeting comfort of the familiar over the challenging, yet liberating, path of the unknown. And mediocrity, I tell you, is a demanding master. It demands your time, your energy, your spirit, and ultimately your potential. It promises safety but delivers stagnation. So look around your life. Where do you feel stuck? Where do you feel a vague sense of unease or unfulfillment? I promise you, in that very spot, you'll find something you're clinging to, something you're refusing to give up. And until you count the true cost of holding on, you won't find the courage to finally let go. So you understand the cost of holding on. The next question is, how do you let go? This isn't about just wishing things were different. It's about a deliberate act of creation through destruction. Not destructive in a harmful way, but destructive to the things that no longer serve you. It's about having the courage to create a void. Think about it. You want new clients. You might need to fire the old ones who drain your energy and don't respect your value. You want a cleaner, more organized life. You must ruthlessly remove the clutter, the unused items, the things that just take up space and mental energy. You want to speak your truth. You might need to stop seeking approval from people who benefit from your silence. You want to build a new financial future. You must cut off the spending habits, the unnecessary subscriptions, the little leaks that keep you poor. Most people hate voids. They see emptiness and panic. They rush to fill it with anything, more clutter, more distractions, more comfortable lies. They fear the unknown. They fear the silence. But the men I studied, the ones who built true, lasting wealth and impact, they understood something profound. A void isn't an absence, it's an opportunity. It's the clean slate, the blank canvas, the fertile ground where new, powerful things can grow. Let me give you a moment I witnessed that solidified this truth for me. I watched a titan of industry decide to close an entire division of his company. Millions of dollars, hundreds of jobs. It was painful. It was a massive cut. Everyone around him was nervous, asking, "Are you sure? What will fill this gap?" He looked at me, calm as ever, and said, "Napoleon, I'm not closing it because it's failing. I'm closing it because it's preventing something far greater from being built." This space, this freed capital, this freed attention, it's the foundation for the next 10 years. He wasn't letting go because he was forced to. He was letting go to create space. He had the vision to see that clinging to something good enough was the enemy of great. That's the courage I'm talking about. The courage to look at a habit, a belief, a relationship, an attachment and say, this is taking up space. This is blocking my next level. This must go. It's counterintuitive. Your natural instinct is to acquire, to add, to accumulate. But sometimes the fastest way forward is to subtract, to shed the weight, to clear the path, to create the void that demands new growth. It takes a deep belief in yourself and in the intelligence of the universe to trust that when you let go of what isn't serving you, something better will rush in to fill that space. But it won't rush in if there's no room. So are you willing to make space? Are you willing to create a void, knowing that within that emptiness lies the blueprint for your expansion? Now we move from theory to action. This isn't just about understanding the concept. It's about identifying what you specifically need to let go of. This takes brutal honesty. No one else can do this for you. I learned from the greatest minds that self-diagnosis is the first step to self-mastery. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. So take a deep breath. Look at your life, not with judgment, but with the cold, hard logic of a general assessing his battlefield. Where are your weaknesses? Where are your self-inflicted wounds? Let's conduct a quick letting go audit. I want you to ask yourself these questions and be honest with the answers. Don't just nod along, genuinely reflect. The anchor of belief. What old belief about yourself, money, success, or your capabilities are you still carrying that limits your potential? For example, I'm not smart enough. Money is hard to earn. I'm not disciplined. I don't deserve it. Is there a past failure or success that we're still living in, rather than learning from and moving beyond? Ask yourself this. What's one core belief that, if released, would change everything? The anchor of comfort routine. What daily habit or routine, however small, are you clinging to that gives you a sense of false security but prevents growth? Such as scrolling aimlessly, procrastinating on key tasks, delaying difficult conversations, unhealthy eating habits, excessive entertainment. What is one thing you know you should stop doing but keep doing anyway? Ask yourself this. What's the most comfortable yet unproductive part of your day? The anchor of relationships. People. Is there a relationship in your life, a friend, family member, or even a professional acquaintance that consistently drains your energy, doubts your vision, or keeps you tethered to a smaller version of yourself? Are you seeking validation from someone who will never give it to you freely? Ask yourself this. Who around you takes more than they contribute to your growth? The anchor of resentment. Blame. Are you holding on to a past slight, a betrayal, or a perceived injustice that fuels your anger or victimhood? Who or what are you still blaming for your current situation, rather than taking full responsibility? Ask yourself, what past hurt are you still using as an excuse for your present inaction? The anchor of busyness versus progress. Are you constantly busy but rarely feel like you're making significant progress towards your biggest goals? What tasks are you clinging to that prevent you from focusing on truly impactful work? Are you saying yes to too many things that don't align with your core purpose? Ask yourself, what activity makes you feel productive but prevents real movement forward? These anchors, my friend, are the invisible ropes tethering your ship to the shore. They make you feel safe, but they prevent you from ever sailing to your true destination. The act of identifying them is not passive. It is a powerful, courageous step. It is the beginning of the end for the old you and the dawn of the new. Don't just read these questions. Let them dig deep. The answer that makes you most uncomfortable, that's your leverage. That's the anchor you need to cut. You've identified your anchors. You've looked at the hidden costs. Now let's talk about the payoff. This isn't some distant reward. The moment you make a conscious decision to release something that holds you back, the results can be immediate and profound. This is the immediate power of surrender. It's a paradox. You give up something and in return you gain everything. It's not about weakness, it's about strategic strength. Consider this. Instant clarity. When you let go of old beliefs, the fog lifts. The truth that was always there, obscured by your self-imposed limitations, suddenly becomes crystal clear. Decisions that felt agonizingly difficult become obvious. You see the path forward because you're no longer staring at your own shadow. Unleashed energy. Remember that heavy backpack of rocks I mentioned earlier. Imagine dropping it. That's what happens to your mental and emotional energy. The constant drain of defending a losing position, justifying inaction, or reliving past hurts vanishes. This freed energy doesn't just disappear, it becomes fuel for creation, for action, for focus. You find yourself able to concentrate longer, work with more intensity, and feel less fatigued. Accelerated momentum. When you're no longer fighting against yourself, every step you take is more effective. The friction is gone. You move from trying to doing. Small wins stack up faster, leading to bigger breakthroughs. It's like a ship no longer fighting against a strong current, suddenly finding tailwinds. Magnetic attraction. The universe responds to clarity and intention. When you release what doesn't serve you, you create a vacuum that draws in what does. New opportunities, supportive relationships, and unexpected resources start appearing. This isn't magic, it's the natural consequence of being aligned and unburdened. You've signaled to the world and to yourself that you're ready for more. Renewed self-trust. This is perhaps the most critical. Every time you consciously choose to let go of an anchor, you rebuild a piece of your self-trust. You prove to yourself that you are capable of decisive action, that your word to yourself means something. This builds an internal fortress of confidence, making future acts of surrender and growth easier and more natural. I observed this in the greatest builders. They weren't afraid to scrap entire projects, fire longtime associates, or pivot their entire vision if the data or their intuition told them it was dead weight. And every time they did, it was followed by a surge of new, unprecedented growth. They weren't just reacting to problems. They were proactively shedding what held them back, knowing the void would attract something better. It takes courage, yes, but the moment you drop that weight, you'll feel the immediate shift. You'll breathe deeper. Your mind will sharpen, and you'll realize that the comfort you clung to was never truly comfortable at all. It was just a slow suffocation. So when you identify that anchor, don't hesitate. Cut it. The freedom on the other side is waiting, and it demands your willingness to let go. You've cut the anchor. You've created the void. Now a critical phase begins, filling that space, not with random busyness, but with deliberate, powerful action. Remember, the universe abhors a vacuum. If you don't intentionally fill the space you've created with purpose, it will inevitably be filled with old patterns or new distractions that lead you right back to where you started. I learned from Edison and Ford that progress isn't about simply stopping bad habits. It's about replacing them with superior ones. They didn't just remove obstacles, they engineered systems for success. Here's how you build new, empowering habits in the open space you've bravely created. 1. Define your replacement. Don't just say, I'll stop procrastinating. Be specific. When I feel the urge to procrastinate, I will immediately open my project and work for 15 minutes. If you stop consuming negative news, what positive, growth-oriented content will you consume instead? If you cut a draining relationship, how will you invest that newfound time and energy into self-development or supportive connections? Ask yourself, for the anchor you just cut, what is the single most impactful new habit you will install in its place? Be precise. 2. Start small, stack consistent wins. Don't try to build a skyscraper on day one. Acknowledge that the old habit had deep roots. Your new habit needs to build its own strength through repetition. Start with something so ridiculously easy you can't say no. 5 minutes of focused work instead of 2 hours of distraction. 1 chapter of a growth book instead of endless scrolling. This is the truth you must understand. The consistent, boring action compounds into unstoppable momentum. Carnegie knew this. His empire wasn't built on grand gestures, but on relentless, disciplined, small moves repeated daily. 3. Create a ritual of replacement. Our minds love rituals. Connect the act of letting go with the installation of the new. For instance, if you cut out a specific type of unproductive spending, create a ritual of immediately moving that same amount of money into a savings or investment account. If you've let go of blame, spend 5 minutes each morning focusing on solutions and gratitude. I recall a man I studied, after letting go of his chronic lateness, began setting his alarm 30 minutes earlier and using that extra time for a quiet moment of planning and focus. He didn't just stop being late, he replaced lateness with preparation. 4. Guard the void. The void is sacred ground. Protect it fiercely from anything that tries to creep back in or new distractions that mimic the old ones. This means building boundaries around your time, your energy, and your attention. Say no to opportunities that don't align with your new direction. Let this sink in. Discipline isn't punishment, it's the highest form of self-respect. 5. Build a system of accountability to yourself. You are your most important stakeholder. Track your progress. Acknowledge your wins. When you slip, don't self-condemn. Analyze, adjust, and recommit. This isn't about perfection. It's about relentless forward motion. When tempted by the old, silently tell yourself, I've chosen freedom. This space is for creation, not old chains. The discipline of letting go is only half the equation. The other half is the discipline of deliberate replacement. This is where your true power lies. You've cleared the ground. Now it's time to plant the seeds of your desired future. You've walked through this journey with me. You've seen the invisible weight people carry. You've identified the comfort traps that disguise themselves as safety. You've understood the silent, relentless cost of clinging to mediocrity. And you've grasped the profound power that comes when you courageously create a void, then fill it with deliberate new action. Now we stand at the threshold. The ultimate truth I learned from the giants like Carnegie and Edison wasn't about what they acquired. It was about what they refused to tolerate. They didn't tolerate excuses. They didn't tolerate indecision. They didn't tolerate the comfortable lies their lesser selves whispered. They certainly didn't tolerate the dead weight of old habits or outdated beliefs. They understood that true power isn't about accumulation. It's about purification. It's about stripping away everything that isn't essential to your highest aim. You see, the life you dream of, the freedom, the impact, the financial independence, the inner peace. It's not hiding from you. It's simply waiting for you to create the space for it. It's on the other side of that one thing you're still clutching, the one thing you're afraid to let go of. Perhaps it's the need for external validation. Perhaps it's the story of past failure. Perhaps it's the comfort of a routine that no longer serves your growth. Perhaps it's a relationship that drains your spirit. Whatever it is, it's a choice. And it's a choice that only you can make. Your future is not defined by what you add to your life. It is defined by what you are courageous enough to release. Think of a rocket. It doesn't reach orbit by holding onto its spent fuel tanks. It sheds them deliberately to reach its true velocity. You are that rocket. So I challenge you. Go back to your letting go audit. Identify that one biggest anchor, that one thing that whispered safety but delivered stagnation. And then, with the same conviction with which you cut a dead branch from a thriving tree, release it. Don't overthink it. Don't negotiate, just act. Because the moment you choose freedom over familiarity, the moment you choose growth over guaranteed comfort, that's when your real journey begins. That's when you stop just wishing for the life you want, and you start commanding it into existence. The chains were never on the outside. They were always within your grasp. It's time to drop them. Remember, your success begins the moment you decide to act.